Okay, and as promised, I just made a quick slideshow of what actually happened in the 2007 season, so you can see it on the left, and then what happened in my redemption series. So on the left, you can see again. It's kind of hard. It's the 2007 season, so this is Jamarcus's rookie year. So in that year, that was the Giants Patriots Super Bowl. So the champs were the Giants. They famously beat the 18-0 Patriots to make them 18-1. The MVP that year was Tom Brady, of course. He threw for 50 touchdowns against 8 interceptions. He absolutely went off. Coach of the year was Bill Belichick. The OPOY, the Offensive Player of the Year, was TB12 again. It was between either him or Randy Moss, because Randy Moss broke his own record, the receiving record. He had 22. Was it 23? He had 23 touchdowns. Defensive Player of the Year that year was Bob Sanders, so that's a fun one. Little Bob Sanders, he was like 5'8", little freaking missile back there. I love watching him. One of my favorite players to watch. The Offensive Rookie of the Year this season was Adrian Peterson. And then the Defensive Rookie of the Year this season was Patrick Willis. So really cool season. One of the best seasons ever, really, if you think about it. 18-0, and then the Giants almost beat the Patriots in Week 17, and then they go to the playoffs, and Giants just barely squeak by, and they just really are getting by with their defense alone, and then they run into the juggernaut of the Patriots, and they come up with a perfect game plan against Tom Brady. There's been many documentaries on this. I would recommend checking out the new one on Dynasty. It's called Dynasty on Apple. Very good. It's skewed a little bit towards the Patriots, but it is a very good documentary. But then we have what happened in my Redemption series. So what happened in the Redemption series is, instead of Eli winning it, his brother actually won it, Peyton. MVP was Tony Romo. Coach was still Bill Belichick. But the Offensive Player of the Year was who Romo was throwing to, which was Terrell Owens. And then the Defensive Player of the Year was a Patriot, Asante Samuel. And for Offensive Rookie of the Year, it is still Adrian Peterson. And really fun to watch, or see unfold. One thing I thought was interesting when I was looking this up, I wanted to see the MVP. So I was looking up MVP for the season. I knew it was Tom Brady. I just wanted to look at it. And someone voted for Brett Favre. He got 1% of the vote that year, which I thought was hilarious. How do you vote for? It should have been unanimous. I mean, dude threw 50 touchdowns, didn't lose a game. Like, how could you be better than that? And some diehard out there is like, no, he had a vote, and he's gonna vote for his boy Brett Favre. That is just so funny to me. But this is what happened in the 2007 season, so super fun stuff. Now, the next slide I'm going to show is going to be Jamarcus's comparison. So here's Jamarcus's comparison. In the 2007 season, he barely played. He only played 4 games. Now I have some things to show in these 4 games, which are fascinating. But you can see in those 4 games, he threw for 373, 2 touchdowns, 4 picks, 54% completion percentage, very low QBR. And then this is what I was alluding to. This rush, it's unbelievable. So he rushed for 4 yards. He didn't have any touchdowns. He got sacked a bunch. I probably should have put sacks in here. I'll do that next time. But he lost 4 fumbles. Just like, he played 4 games and lost 4 fumbles. That's unbelievable to me. Am I missing something here? Pass yards, pass touchdowns, picks, percentage, QBR. Rush yards, rush shot. Yeah, it's all the same, right? Why does it look longer? Oh, I don't know. I've been looking at it too long. So, and then on the right, I have the Redemption series. So, he played all season, and he didn't get hurt. So, he threw for 3,400 yards. He threw 25 tutties against 11 picks. Still 54% completion percentage, which is very low. I hate that. I want it to get higher. That's what we're going to work on. QBR 81 instead of that 19. He had 293 rush yards, and then he didn't have any rush touchdowns, but he also didn't have any fumbles. So This is the difference, is that rookie season. So we've seen rookies in the past have awful seasons, and then they hit that second year and they shoot up. Or we've seen the opposite, where we've seen rookies have an amazing first year and then they have a sophomore slump. So to me, those first 2 years of quarterback specifically is paramount. It is so unbelievably important to get into the right scheme, to get into the right organization. Jamarcus didn't do that. He just went to the worst. He went to Al Davis in a time where Al Davis was just going after the fastest guys possible. He was not that commitment to excellence you hear about. That was not happening. They were in shambles, and Jamarcus himself had issues, right? He had issues holding himself accountable. He did let his body go. He let these things happen to himself, and he could have stopped it. But what should have happened is there should be something in place in the organization that comes in and helps a young player, and you can see the difference where on the left nothing happened. Okay, they drafted him number 1. That's the first. They think he's gonna be the best guy in this whole thing. When you have Calvin Johnson, you have Adrian Peterson, Joe Thomas, these guys, you think Jamarcus. So they went after it. They said, yes, absolutely, Jamarcus is going to be the best guy. And then he goes out there. He barely plays 4 games, which is fine. You can sit. But you either sit or you play the whole year. 4 games is weird. And then he comes in and gets 4 fumbles. Obviously, he has issues with his weight. He has issues with a lot of things. No one ever in that organization, maybe they attempted to, but it just seems like from the outside looking in that nothing ever happened that should have happened for this young man. And of course, he was always going to be a bust. If you same thing with something like the ending up in Washington or Carolina in these current years, or the Bears, like with Justin Fields. These are parallels to Justin Fields here. That you end up on these organizations or in these bad schemes that don't fit you, and then they give up on you and you're bad, so the next year they have another good draft pick, and then maybe they give up on you just like they did with Justin Fields, like the Bears did with Justin Fields. So it's just interesting. There's the Packers school of thought where you draft a guy just to bench him, literally just so he can learn, and they're the gold standard at this, right? They're the best to ever do it, drafting quarterbacks. They've drafted 3 in the past however many years, and they're all 2 of them are Hall of Famers, and one's like a top 10 in the season last year. So there's that school of thought, you let them develop, or there's the other school of thought where you just immediately throw them to the wolves. But doing this back and forth, 1 foot in, 1 foot out thing, does not help a young player develop. And clearly the Raiders didn't have anything in place. They didn't know what the hell was going on with this guy. But yeah, this is what happens. We brought in, we bought the team from Al Davis. We brought in a training staff because he was having weight issues. So we brought in that training staff. They come in and they absolutely change the game. They put him on a strict diet and on a weight program. He lifts weights. He gets stronger. He has more stamina. And then we hire a quarterback guru to come in and help his throwing motion. Okay, and look what he does. So these are the parallels. These are the differences that could really happen, and this could happen in real life. And maybe Madden inflates the stats a little bit, of course, but it could be closer to the right side of the screen than the left side of the screen. That's for sure. So poor Jamarcus Russell. I always felt bad for the guy because he just got drafted to such a dumpster fire of an organization. I mean, what's he supposed to do? All right, and I just wanted to go over a couple other storylines of the 2007 NFL season. So as you can see on your screen, number 1 would be, an on-the-field storyline, I'll say, is going to be that 19-1 Patriots. Of course, they went undefeated in the regular season. They made it all the way to the Super Bowl undefeated. We're going to be the second team that went undefeated for an entire season, and then they ran into Eli Manning and that Giants defense that schemed perfectly for them. But as far as on the field, that was the biggest story on the field. Now, off the field, there were two other big stories. Number one was the death of Sean Taylor, um, which, of course, if you've watched football in the mid 2000s, you know exactly who this man is. Super uber talented safety from the Washington Redskins. Tough dude, old school type of guy, big hitter. Was going to probably be one of the best safeties that ever lived, but tragically passed away. Basically, what happened was someone broke into his house. Four guys broke into his house, actually, like super early in the morning. And Sean Taylor confronted them, of course. They broke into his house, and then they shot him. He got a bullet in his femoral artery, which is like the biggest artery in the body, I'm pretty sure. So he bled out. It caused massive blood loss, and he bled out. And then, the following day, they released the news. And I just remember being like, who? Like, there's no way that Sean Taylor died. I keep remembering that. He's only 24. I remember that day. It reminded me of like when Chris Henry died too. It's just like, how does this happen? It's kind of unbelievable to think about. Like, he was just here, and then boom, he's gone. Now with that, also, there was a third storyline, unfortunately, and this was also a bad storyline. So 2007 was a pretty bad season for the NFL, but the third storyline was the arrest of Michael Vick for dogfighting. He went to prison. Of course, they launched a huge investigation on him being, involved in dogfighting. And after the investigation, the news broke that yes, they found him enough evidence to find him guilty of large-scale dogfighting operations being held on his property. So, of course, he went to prison for that, and then says he went for 23 months, and he was released. And then later on, he was picked up by the Eagles. He got if I'm not mistaken, he got his second $100 million contract from them. So, kind of a crazy story. Of course, like I said, if you were watching football during that time, you know all about this already, but just wanted to throw it out. Now, some other notable things that did happen in 2007 that weren't really discussed were the deaths of a couple other young players. It's actually really sad. There was a DB named Darren Williams, and I didn't remember this. I'm just looking because I was just studying this or researching it or whatever, and I went back and looked. So this Darren Williams. He got drafted in 2005. He was on the Broncos for a couple years. He got drafted in the second round. He actually played quite a bit. He made an impact. He was making an impact. And then in 2007, literally the first day of 2007, January 1st, he was killed in a drive-by shooting. So it looks like him and two other passengers were shot when another vehicle pulled beside his Hummer, and in downtown Colorado, and they just opened fire. There's not a whole lot of information on it. It just says that he was at Kenyon Martin's party, and something happened before that between rival gang members, and there's confrontation. A bunch of people left, and for whatever reason, Darren Williams got caught in the middle of it. Not saying he's not guilty or anything like that, but I don't know what happened. But all I know is he got killed, and he was, pronounced dead at 2:30 in the morning. So another young man died that year. Awful. Again, he was 24 as well, and then another 24-year-old named Damian Nash. I remember Damian Nash. So he was a running back. He was on the who was he on? He was on the Broncos and the Titans. And basically, he was playing a charity basketball game, and he went into, I'm assuming cardiac arrest. It just says he collapsed. He collapsed and died later on. Again, crazy. What a horrible, horrible death. And then some other notable deaths from that year were Daryl Stingley. So that Stingley name, probably you're like, okay, Stingley, I know that name. So he was really, he got drafted by the Patriots back in the day, and in a preseason game again, this was in the 70s. He got drafted in 72. So anyway, he was going over the middle and playing against the Raiders. Again, preseason game. He went over the middle and got a huge hit on him by Jack Tatum of the Raiders. If you don't know who Jack Tatum is, he's basically one of, if not the dirtiest players in NFL history. But he actually paralyzed him, Daryl Stingley. So he was only 26 and he couldn't walk ever again because of this hit. He went on to he had already had a child at that time. His son's name was Derek Stingley. So Derek Stingley went on to play in college, and he never made it to the NFL. But he actually went to the Arena League, and he won. First, before he went to the Arena League, he actually got drafted by the Phillies. This whole family's fascinating, but he got drafted by the Phillies in '93. He played in the minor league system for 3 years, and then he was like, you know what, I just want to be playing football again. So in '98, he actually joined '99. He joined the practice squad for the Jets. Didn't make it though, and then was waived and went over to play in the Arena Football League. And he ended up winning a championship there. And then after he retired, he actually became a coach in the Arena League. He was a horrible coach. 9-32 was his record. But he went over there and he did that. So I thought that was interesting. He did some more coaching later on and everything. Nothing of real significance. What I would say he did, the biggest thing was that he fathered a child, Derek Stingley Jr., who we should all know very, very well. He's a star defensive back on the Houston Texans right now. He played at LSU. If you watch football, you know who Derek Stingley Jr. is, though, right? But I just thought, what a cool family that isn't really talked about a lot, and a lot of things clearly happen in their life, in their lives that again isn't really covered. So wanted to throw that out there real quick. And some other notable deaths from that year were the legend Bill Walsh, the coach of the 49ers, who originated or created the West Coast offense and won a bunch of rings. He died that year. He was 75, but yeah, he died that year as well. So a ton of really sad stuff happened this year, and then cap it off with with a crazy Super Bowl, to be honest, with the helmet catch and everything. But yeah, pretty bad year for the NFL. That's why you didn't really hear a whole lot about Jamarcus his rookie season, because number one, he didn't play a lot, and number two, there was just so much other stuff going on, right? But yeah, so I just wanted to quickly go over what was happening in 2007, because I forgot basically all of this stuff. So I thought you might want to listen to it too. All right, and that concludes this episode. Just a quick recap of what happened this season. And for the next episode, we'll actually just jump right into the playoffs and see who wins the Super Bowl. That will be one dedicated episode, and then the next episode after that will be the entire off-season process. That is going to be an uncut video. I'm just going to throw out exactly what I did I recorded everything I did in the off-season, and I commented on it the whole time. So I'm just going to do raw footage, just throw it up there. It's going to be pretty long. But I just kind of want to show the process, show my thinking process of what I'm trying to do with this team. But yeah, so that's a couple episodes away though, so we'll get into that when we get there. But for now, let's move on to the next episode, which is going to be that Super Bowl. But again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
GG!